Marcus Chen stood in his workshop, surrounded by half-finished inventions and memories of his late wife Sarah. The smell of metal shavings and motor oil filled the air as he worked on another prototype. 3 years had passed since the cancer took her, and he buried himself deeper into his engineering projects each day. The small farm outside Denver had become his fortress of solitude, where he could tinker with advanced weapon systems without disturbing anyone. The first sign of trouble came as a shimmer in the evening sky. Marcus looked up from his workbench through the dusty window and saw something that shouldn't exist. A sleek obsidian craft descended silently toward his property, its hull reflecting the dying sunlight like liquid mercury. No human technology moved that way, with such perfect silence and grace. Marcus reached for the modified rifle hanging on his workshop wall. Sarah used to laugh at his paranoia, calling him her doomsday prepper husband. But growing up in military families taught both of them that peace was always temporary. The weapon in his hands looked ordinary from the outside, but Marcus had spent years improving its internal mechanisms with experimental technology he developed during his time with defense contractors. The alien ship landed behind his barn, disturbing his chickens who scattered with alarmed squawks. Marcus moved through his house with practiced stealth, checking each window and door. His home defense system activated automatically, sensors detecting the unusual energy signatures from the craft. Red lights blinked silently on his security panel, confirming what his eyes had already told him. Through his bedroom window, Marcus watched 3 figures emerge from the spacecraft. They moved with predatory grace, their bodies covered in form-fitting armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Each creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, with elongated limbs and heads that suggested intelligence far beyond human understanding. Their weapons gleamed with unknown energy, humming softly in the still evening air. The lead assassin raised its arm, and Marcus saw a device scanning his property. They were mapping his defenses, learning the layout of his home and workshop. These weren't random visitors or explorers. They had come specifically for him, though Marcus couldn't understand why. He was just a widowed engineer living alone on a small farm, building gadgets to keep his mind off his grief. Sarah's photograph smiled at him from the nightstand, and Marcus felt familiar anger rising in his chest. He had already lost everything that mattered to him. These aliens, whoever they were, had made a serious mistake coming to his home. They thought they were hunting a helpless human, but Marcus had spent decades designing weapons for the military. His workshop contained prototypes that defense departments would kill to examine. The aliens began moving toward his house in a coordinated pattern. Marcus activated his home's defensive systems, watching through security cameras as invisible laser grids powered up around his property. Motion sensors came online, and automated turrets emerged from hidden positions throughout his land. The creatures paused, their advanced sensors detecting the sudden energy buildup around them. Marcus smiled grimly as he loaded specialized ammunition into his rifle. Each round contained a small explosive charge designed to penetrate advanced armor. He had developed them for fighting heavily protected targets, never imagining he would use them against alien assassins. But Sarah had always said he was too stubborn to die quietly, and she was right about that. The first alien approached his front door with confident steps. Marcus let it get close enough to see its alien features clearly through his scope. Strange symbols covered its armor, and its eyes glowed with unnatural light. When it raised its weapon toward his door, Marcus squeezed the trigger. The explosive round struck the creature's center mass, and its advanced armor proved useless against human ingenuity. The alien stumbled backward, dark fluid spraying from the wound before it collapsed onto Marcus's porch. Its companions immediately took cover, their casual confidence replaced by wariness. Marcus moved to his workshop through connecting tunnels he had built beneath his property. The aliens were scanning for him, but his underground passages were shielded with materials designed to block various types of detection. He reached his heavy weapons cache and selected a prototype launcher he had been developing for anti-vehicle purposes. The second alien tried to circle around his house, moving through his vegetable garden with careful steps. Marcus emerged from a hidden position near his greenhouse and fired his launcher. The projectile struck the creature before it could react, the explosion sending it flying into his fence posts. Alien technology scattered across his lawn, sparking and smoking in the gathering darkness. The third assassin had taken cover behind Marcus's barn, using advanced sensors to locate him. But Marcus knew his own property better than any alien scanner could map it. He activated remote charges he had placed around his buildings for exactly this type of situation. The barn exploded outward, wooden boards and metal roofing flying in all directions. When the smoke cleared, the final alien lay motionless among the wreckage. Marcus approached carefully, his rifle ready for any signs of movement. All three creatures were dead, their advanced technology now just expensive scrap metal scattered across his farm. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. Someone had sent these assassins specifically to kill him, and they would send more when the first team failed to return. Marcus began collecting alien weapons and technology, his engineering mind already analyzing their construction and capabilities. These devices would help him understand his enemies and prepare for future attacks. Sarah had always encouraged his curiosity about advanced technology, and now that curiosity might be the only thing keeping him alive. As he dragged the alien bodies toward his workshop, Marcus wondered who wanted him dead and why. He was about to find out that his past work with defense contractors had attracted attention from very dangerous enemies across the galaxy, but they had underestimated human determination, especially the determination of a man with nothing left to lose. Marcus spent the entire night analyzing the alien technology scattered across his property. Each weapon contained power sources beyond human understanding, with energy cells that could run his entire farm for months. The armor plating was lighter than titanium but stronger than anything he had ever encountered during his military contractor days. Most interesting were the communication devices embedded in each assassin's equipment. Working in his underground laboratory, Marcus carefully extracted data from the alien communication systems. Sarah had taught him basic programming during their college years, and his engineering background helped him understand the logical patterns in the alien code. After hours of painstaking work, he managed to access fragments of their mission briefings and command structure. The assassins belonged to something called the Hegemony Enforcement Division, a galactic military organization that controlled hundreds of star systems. According to their files, Marcus Chen was designated as a Class 7 technological threat who needed immediate termination. The reason shocked him completely. His defensive weapons patents had been stolen by alien infiltrators and were being reverse-engineered by hegemony enemies. Apparently, several human innovations were causing problems across multiple galactic sectors. Marcus's explosive penetrator rounds had been adapted to pierce hegemony battle armor, while his sensor-defeating materials were helping rebel forces avoid detection. The aliens viewed Earth not as a primitive world, but as a dangerous source of unpredictable military technology that threatened their control over subjugated species. Marcus felt a mixture of pride and terror as he read through the intelligence files. Human creativity and stubbornness were apparently legendary throughout the galaxy, but not in a good way. The hegemony had been monitoring Earth for decades, cataloging human innovations and eliminating individuals whose work posed the greatest threats to their military supremacy. Marcus was number 7 on their termination list, but the most disturbing information came from the mission timeline. The 3 assassins who attacked his farm were just the first wave. If they failed to report success within 48 hours, a second team would be dispatched with heavier weapons and explicit orders to destroy his entire property. If the second team also failed, orbital bombardment would eliminate the threat permanently. Marcus had 36 hours before the next attack arrived. He spent precious time building coffins for the dead aliens, using materials from his workshop to construct 3 identical metal containers. Each coffin was carefully lined with the aliens' own armor plating and equipped with their communication devices. Marcus programmed the devices to broadcast continuously on hegemony frequencies, sending a very specific message to whoever was listening. The message was simple and direct. Marcus Chen was ready for war. The first team had failed because they underestimated human ingenuity and determination. Any future teams would face increasingly deadly opposition. He included detailed scans of the alien bodies and equipment to prove his claims, along with specifications for several defensive systems he had constructed around his property. Marcus loaded the 3 coffins onto a trailer and drove them to the exact spot where the alien craft had landed. Using his tractor, he arranged them in a neat row with each coffin's communication array pointed toward the sky. The devices began transmitting immediately, sending his declaration of war across interstellar distances to whoever was coordinating the assassination attempts. But Marcus wasn't content with simply sending a message. He had spent years studying military history, and he understood that successful defense required aggressive action. While the alien communication devices broadcasted his defiance, Marcus began preparing for an offensive strike against the next assassin team. The alien ship remained where it had landed, its hull intact despite the battle around it. Marcus spent hours studying the craft's exterior, identifying potential entry points and weak spots in its construction. The ship's technology was incredibly advanced, but its creators had never considered the possibility that their targets might fight back effectively. Using cutting tools from his workshop, Marcus carefully opened an access panel on the ship's underside. The internal systems were unlike anything in human technology, but basic engineering principles remained consistent across species. Power flowed from energy sources to various subsystems, and those connections could be modified or disrupted by someone with the right knowledge and determination. Marcus installed several of his own devices inside the alien ship. Motion sensors connected to explosive charges would activate if anyone attempted to board the craft. He also rigged the ship's communication system to transmit false signals, making it appear operational while actually feeding incorrect information to any monitoring systems the aliens might be using to track their team's progress. The most important modification involved the ship's navigation computer. Marcus carefully extracted data about hegemony patrol routes and base locations, information that would be crucial for planning future operations. He discovered that the assassin teams operated from a mobile command ship positioned at the edge of Earth's solar system, far enough away to avoid detection by human space monitoring systems. With the alien ship converted into an elaborate trap, Marcus returned to his workshop to prepare for the inevitable second attack. The alien weapons he had captured provided insights into hegemony military technology, allowing him to design countermeasures and improved defensive systems. His farm was becoming a fortress, with hidden weapons emplacements and sensor networks that would make any future assault extremely costly for the attackers. Marcus also began construction on his most ambitious project yet. Using alien power sources and human engineering principles, he designed a communications array capable of reaching the hegemony command ship directly. When the second assassin team arrived, they would face not just improved defenses, but a human who could strike back at their base of operations. As dawn broke over his property, Marcus stood among the three alien coffins and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien military commanders were receiving his message and planning their response. They had made the mistake of targeting a man who had already lost everything that mattered to him, and who possessed both the skills and determination to make them regret that decision. Sarah's memory drove him forward as he prepared for the coming battle. She had always believed in his ability to solve impossible problems and overcome overwhelming odds. The aliens were about to discover that human love and human stubbornness could be the most dangerous weapons in the galaxy when combined with advanced engineering skills and a complete willingness to fight until death. The second wave arrived exactly 37 hours after Marcus sent his message, descending from the night sky in a larger, more heavily armored craft. Marcus watched through his enhanced surveillance system as 7 aliens emerged from their ship, each one carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Their equipment looked more sophisticated than the first team, with additional sensors and what appeared to be personal force fields shimmering around their bodies. These assassins moved with military precision, spreading out to surround his property in a coordinated attack pattern. Marcus smiled grimly as he activated the defensive systems he had spent 2 days preparing. The aliens had no idea they were walking into a killing ground designed specifically to counter their tactics and technology. The lead assassin approached the 3 coffins Marcus had left as his message. As it bent to examine the nearest container, motion sensors triggered the first surprise. Hidden charges erupted around the landing area, sending metal fragments and alien technology flying in all directions. 2 assassins were caught in the explosions, their advanced armor cracking under the impact of Marcus's improved explosive rounds. But these aliens were professionals who adapted quickly to unexpected threats. The surviving 5 immediately took cover and began systematic scans of Marcus's property, their sensors probing for hidden weapons and defensive positions. They had learned from the fate of the first team and were approaching this assault with appropriate caution. Marcus activated his communication array and began broadcasting directly to the alien command ship. His message was simple and clear, transmitted in the mathematical language that any technological species would understand. He offered the hegemony a choice: withdraw their forces immediately, or face escalating retaliation against their military assets throughout the solar system. The aliens responded by attempting to jam his communications, but Marcus had anticipated this tactic. His array used multiple frequency ranges and quantum encryption methods based on principles he had discovered while analyzing their technology. The alien jamming systems were sophisticated but inflexible, designed to counter known technologies rather than human innovations they had never encountered before. While his message traveled across space toward the hegemony command ship, Marcus prepared to demonstrate the cost of continuing their assault. He activated a weapon system built around the alien ship the first team had left behind. The modifications he had made transformed the craft into a guided missile, with enough explosive power to level several city blocks. The alien ship lifted off under remote control, its flight systems reprogrammed to follow Marcus's commands. The second assassin team detected the launch immediately and tried to shoot down what they assumed was their predecessor's escape craft. Their weapons struck the ship's hull harmlessly, the alien armor too strong to penetrate with handheld energy weapons. Marcus guided the weaponized ship directly toward the second team's larger craft. The assassins on the ground realized his intention and desperately tried to warn their ship's automated defenses, but Marcus had already jammed their communications using their own equipment against them. The collision occurred exactly as planned, both alien craft disappearing in a brilliant explosion that lit up the countryside for miles around. The blast eliminated the aliens' escape route and damaged their heavy weapons, but 5 assassins still remained on his property. Marcus moved through his underground tunnel system, emerging at different positions to engage the aliens with hit-and-run tactics. Each encounter lasted only seconds before he disappeared again, leaving behind damaged equipment and confused enemies. The aliens tried to adapt by spreading out further and using their superior sensors to track his movements underground. But Marcus had lined his tunnels with materials designed to block various types of detection, and he knew every inch of his property while the aliens were fighting on unfamiliar ground. He picked them off one by one, using their own weapons against them whenever possible. The 4th assassin fell to a trap Marcus had constructed using alien technology and human engineering principles. When the creature tried to breach his workshop, it triggered a cascade of energy feedback through its own equipment. The aliens' weapon systems overloaded catastrophically, eliminating both the assassin and a significant portion of Marcus's building. The 5th alien proved more cautious, using advanced stealth technology to become nearly invisible while hunting for Marcus through his tunnel network. But human paranoia had served Marcus well during the construction of his underground fortress. He had installed backup sensors throughout the system, including several that operated on principles the alien stealth systems couldn't defeat. Marcus tracked the infiltrator through his tunnels and cornered it in his main laboratory. The alien's stealth field flickered and failed when confronted with a directed electromagnetic pulse Marcus generated using modified alien power cells. Without its technological advantage, the creature proved no match for Marcus's knowledge of his own defensive systems. The final 2 aliens regrouped near the wreckage of their ship, using portable communication equipment to contact their command vessel. Marcus intercepted their transmission and learned that orbital bombardment had been authorized if the second team failed to complete their mission. The aliens were calling down destruction not just on his property, but on the entire region around his farm. Marcus realized he had perhaps 20 minutes before energy weapons in orbit reduced everything within 50 miles to radioactive ash. Innocent people in nearby towns would die along with him, unless he could stop the bombardment. The aliens had escalated beyond assassination to mass destruction, crossing a line that transformed this from personal survival into something much larger. Using his communication array, Marcus transmitted everything he had learned about hegemony military operations directly to every human government and military organization whose communication frequencies he could access. The data included patrol routes, weapon specifications, command protocols, and most importantly, the location of the alien command ship waiting at the edge of the solar system. But transmitting intelligence to human authorities wouldn't stop the immediate threat of orbital bombardment. Marcus needed to eliminate the final two assassins and capture their communication equipment before the bombardment commenced. He had minutes to accomplish what should take hours, against enemies who knew that failure meant their own death along with his. Marcus emerged from his tunnels carrying the most powerful weapon he had constructed, a prototype that combined alien energy technology with human explosive principles. The two remaining assassins detected his approach and opened fire with everything they had remaining. Energy blasts tore through his property, igniting buildings and leaving craters in his fields. But Marcus had spent 3 years preparing for exactly this moment. Ever since Sarah's death had taught him that loss was inevitable, but surrender was optional. He charged toward the aliens through their defensive fire, his weapon powering up with a sound like thunder rolling across the earth. Marcus's experimental weapon fired with devastating effect, the combination of alien energy cells and human explosive technology creating a destructive force neither species had achieved independently. The blast vaporized both remaining assassins instantly and sent shockwaves across his property that shattered windows for miles around. But Marcus barely noticed the destruction because his communication equipment was receiving an incoming transmission from orbit. The message came directly from the Hegemony command ship, and Marcus was surprised to hear it transmitted in perfect English. A cold mechanical voice spoke through his speakers with the authority of absolute military power. The commander identified himself as Enforcement Marshal Krixvar, and his words carried the weight of someone accustomed to complete obedience from lesser beings. Marshal Krixvar informed Marcus that orbital bombardment would commence in 8 minutes unless he surrendered immediately. The Hegemony was prepared to eliminate every human within a 100-mile radius to ensure his termination. Innocent civilians would die because Marcus had chosen to resist rather than accept his execution quietly. But the alien commander made a critical error in judgment. He assumed that threatening innocent people would force Marcus to surrender, not understanding that humans responded to such threats with increased determination rather than compliance. Marcus had already transmitted intelligence about hegemony operations to human authorities, but now he decided to take much more direct action against the command ship itself. Working frantically in his partially destroyed laboratory, Marcus began assembling the most ambitious weapon he had ever attempted to construct. The device combined every piece of alien technology he had captured with his most advanced experimental systems. The power requirements were enormous, drawing energy from multiple alien power cells in parallel configurations that should, theoretically, be impossible to maintain safely. Sarah had always joked that Marcus never met an engineering challenge he wouldn't accept, no matter how dangerous or impractical. She would have been both proud and terrified to see him working with technology that could easily destroy his entire property if any component failed during the construction process. The weapon Marcus was building was essentially a massive railgun designed to fire a projectile through space at relativistic velocities. The projectile itself contained multiple warheads built around alien explosive technology, with enough destructive power to penetrate the shields and armor of the Hegemony command ship. But first he needed to solve the targeting problem of hitting a mobile target millions of miles away. Marshal Krixvar continued broadcasting threats and ultimatums, apparently believing that psychological pressure would succeed where 2 assassination teams had failed. The alien commander described the capabilities of his ship's weapons and the devastating effects of orbital bombardment, painting vivid pictures of the destruction Marcus was bringing upon innocent humans by continuing to resist. Marcus ignored the threats and focused on extracting navigation data from the alien communication equipment scattered around his property. Each device contained partial information about the command ship's position and movement patterns, and by combining multiple sources, he was able to calculate its current location with sufficient accuracy for targeting purposes. The railgun's construction required precision engineering under extreme time pressure. Marcus had perhaps 4 minutes remaining before orbital bombardment commenced, and his weapon needed several components that didn't quite fit together properly. He solved the compatibility problems by using materials from his own destroyed buildings, welding alien technology to human structural elements with techniques that would horrify any safety inspector. With 2 minutes remaining, Marcus activated his improvised space cannon and began the targeting sequence. The weapon's power requirements were so enormous that every light in the surrounding county dimmed as he drew energy from the electrical grid. The alien power cells supplemented the draw, but the combined energy flow was approaching the theoretical limits of the materials he was using for construction. Marshal Krixvar detected the massive energy buildup around Marcus's property and realized that the human was attempting some form of retaliation. The alien commander sounded genuinely puzzled as he demanded to know how a primitive human could generate power signatures visible from millions of miles away. His confusion would have been amusing under different circumstances. Marcus finished the targeting calculations and prepared to fire his weapon at the hegemony command ship. The projectile would take several minutes to cross the distance between Earth and the alien vessel, but it would strike with enough force to punch through any defensive systems the aliens possessed. The explosion would be visible from Earth as a brief new star appearing in the night sky. But as Marcus reached for the firing control, he realized that destroying the command ship would only delay the inevitable. The hegemony controlled hundreds of worlds and possessed military resources beyond human comprehension. Eliminating one ship might save innocent people from immediate bombardment, but it would also escalate the conflict beyond any possibility of peaceful resolution. Marcus paused with his hand on the firing switch, remembering something Sarah had told him during one of her chemotherapy sessions. She had said that sometimes the strongest response to violence wasn't greater violence, but the kind of stubborn refusal to surrender that eventually wore down even the most determined opponents. Instead of firing immediately, Marcus activated his communication array and transmitted a new message directly to Marshal Krixvar. The message contained complete technical specifications for the weapon currently aimed at the command ship, along with detailed analysis of the alien military technology Marcus had reverse-engineered. He offered the hegemony commander a choice that no one had apparently given him before. Marcus proposed a single combat challenge between himself and the alien commander's best warrior. If the alien champion won, Marcus would surrender peacefully and accept termination. If Marcus won, the hegemony would withdraw all forces from Earth's solar system and remove humanity from their target list permanently. Marshal Krixvar's response revealed that Marcus had correctly guessed something important about alien military culture. The hegemony respected strength and determination above all other qualities, and they had never encountered a species that consistently refused to surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. Marcus's proposal intrigued the commander enough to postpone the orbital bombardment, while he considered the implications. The alien commander demanded proof that Marcus actually possessed the capabilities his message claimed. Marcus provided that proof by firing his railgun at a small asteroid in the outer solar system, demonstrating that human engineering could indeed reach across interplanetary distances with devastating effect. The explosion confirmed that humanity was far more dangerous than the hegemony had realized. Marshal Krixvar agreed to the single combat challenge, but on his own terms. The alien champion would be transported to Earth's surface for a battle that would be broadcast across hegemony space, as an example of what happened to species that refused to submit to alien authority. Marcus would face an opponent with superior technology and physical capabilities, with no backup and no possibility of retreat if the battle went against him. The alien champion arrived in a craft unlike anything Marcus had seen before, sleek and predatory with weapon systems that made the previous ships look like children's toys. As the vessel landed in the clearing where Marcus had arranged his original message of defiance, energy readings from his sensors showed power levels that could level mountains. This was not another assassination team, but a warrior specifically chosen to demonstrate hegemony military superiority. Marshal Krixvar's voice echoed across Marcus's property through powerful speakers mounted on the champion's ship. The alien commander announced that the human would face Destroyer Prime Xel'Noth, the hegemony's most accomplished individual combatant. Xel'Noth had eliminated over 300 resistance leaders across 40 different worlds, using nothing but personal weapons and tactical superiority to crush rebellions that conventional forces couldn't contain. The alien champion emerged from its craft with deliberate ceremony, clearly intending to intimidate Marcus with both its appearance and its reputation. Xel'Noth stood nearly 10 feet tall, with forearms ending in clawed hands that could manipulate weapons with inhuman dexterity. Its armor looked like liquid metal that flowed and adapted to provide optimal protection. while multiple weapon systems integrated seamlessly into the suit's design. But Marcus noticed something important about the alien's confidence. Xel'Noth moved like a predator that had never encountered serious resistance, someone accustomed to facing opponents who were already beaten before the fighting began. The destroyer expected fear and submission from the humans it confronted, not the kind of stubborn defiance that Marcus had been cultivating since Sarah's death. Marshal Krixvar established the rules of combat through his broadcast system. Each combatant could use personal weapons and equipment, but no outside assistance would be permitted once the battle began. The fight would continue until one opponent was dead or surrendered unconditionally. If Marcus won, the hegemony would withdraw from Earth's solar system permanently and classify humanity as too dangerous to engage without overwhelming force. Marcus accepted the terms and walked out to meet his opponent in the field where his first battle with alien assassins had occurred. The ground was still torn up from explosions and energy weapon impacts, littered with pieces of destroyed alien technology and the remains of his burned buildings. It was appropriate that this final confrontation should take place among the wreckage of everything he had lost. Xel'Noth studied Marcus with the detached interest of a scientist examining an unusual specimen. The alien champion spoke for the first time, its voice carrying harmonics that no human throat could produce. It expressed genuine curiosity about how such a small, weak creature had managed to eliminate 2 full assassination teams equipped with advanced hegemony technology. Marcus replied that Xel'Noth was about to discover the answer to that question firsthand. He had spent the previous hour preparing for this battle, not with exotic weapons or advanced technology, but with the same careful planning and engineering principles that had guided every project he had undertaken since Sarah's death. The alien champion possessed superior physical capabilities, but Marcus had advantages that no alien could fully understand. The battle began with Xel'Noth demonstrating its overwhelming technological superiority. Energy weapons erupted from multiple points on its armor, turning the air around Marcus into a storm of deadly radiation. The alien moved with impossible speed and agility, its forearms firing independently, while its adaptive armor shifted to provide optimal angles of deflection against return fire. Marcus avoided the initial barrage by diving into one of his underground tunnels, using his intimate knowledge of the terrain to stay ahead of the alien's targeting systems. Xel'Noth pursued him underground, confident that superior sensors and firepower would end the hunt quickly in the confined spaces below ground. But the tunnels were Marcus's domain, constructed specifically to provide advantages against technologically superior opponents. Every junction contained traps designed to exploit the assumptions built into alien technology. Xel'Noth's sensors detected multiple false readings from devices Marcus had scattered throughout the tunnel system. While its adaptive armor proved vulnerable to attack methods that no alien had ever considered using, Marcus struck at the alien champion using tactics that combined human unpredictability with intimate knowledge of hegemony technology weaknesses. He had spent days analyzing captured alien equipment, identifying design flaws that could be exploited by someone willing to think outside conventional military doctrine. Xel'Noth's armor adapted to energy weapons and kinetic impacts, but it couldn't adapt to attacks it wasn't programmed to recognize. The alien champion emerged from the tunnels damaged and confused, its confidence shaken by encounters with defensive systems that violated every principle of logical military engineering. Marcus had used everything from chemical reactions to gravitational effects to damage equipment that should have been invulnerable to anything a human could deploy. Xel'Noth abandoned its pursuit tactics and began systematically destroying Marcus's property in an attempt to eliminate all possible hiding places. The aliens' weapons reduced buildings to ash and turned vehicles into molten metal, demonstrating power levels that could devastate entire cities if deployed against civilian targets. But destroying the infrastructure also eliminated many of the technological advantages the alien champion had been relying upon. Marcus emerged from his remaining cover to engage Xel'Noth directly, carrying weapons built from a combination of human engineering and captured alien technology. The devices looked crude compared to the aliens' sleek equipment, but they had been designed specifically to counter the advantages that hegemony forces typically enjoyed in combat situations. The final phase of the battle showcased the difference. between alien technological superiority and human adaptability under pressure. Xel'Nath fought with programmed precision and overwhelming firepower, exactly as it had been trained by military instructors who assumed that superior technology would always prevail against primitive resistance. Marcus fought with the desperate creativity of someone defending everything he cared about against enemies who refused to leave him alone. Every move he made violated alien expectations about how combat should proceed, using improvised tactics and weapons that no military academy had ever taught because they were too dangerous, impractical, or insane for conventional forces to consider. The turning point came when Marcus managed to damage Xel'Nath's adaptive armor using a weapon that combined alien power cells with human chemical explosives in ways that should theoretically have been impossible. The alien champion's equipment began failing in cascade reactions that its designers had never anticipated, leaving Xel'Nath vulnerable to attacks that its armor could no longer counter. Marshal Krixvar watched through his sensors as his greatest warrior was systematically dismantled by a species the hegemony had classified as primitive and harmless. The alien commander's broadcasts revealed growing alarm as he realized that humanity represented a threat unlike anything the hegemony had previously encountered in their campaigns across the galaxy. Destroyer Prime Xel'Nath lay defeated among the wreckage of Marcus's farm, its supposedly invincible armor cracked and smoking from weapons that shouldn't have been able to harm it. The alien champion was still alive but completely incapacitated, its advanced technology reduced to expensive scrap metal by human engineering principles applied in ways that violated every rule of conventional warfare. Marshal Krixvar's voice carried a note of genuine shock as he broadcast across both Earth and hegemony space. The alien commander had expected to demonstrate humanity's weakness to rebellious species throughout the galaxy, but instead he was witnessing the impossible defeat of the hegemony's greatest individual, warrior by a single human using improvised weapons and tactics that defied military logic. Marcus stood over his defeated opponent, breathing heavily from exhaustion but alive and victorious. He activated his communication array to respond directly to the alien commander's increasingly frantic transmissions. The time had come to demonstrate that human stubbornness could achieve what alien logic declared impossible. Instead of demanding immediate hegemony withdrawal, as the terms of their agreement specified, Marcus made an offer that stunned both the alien commander and every human authority monitoring the extraordinary battle. He proposed to share human technological innovations with the hegemony in exchange for a permanent peace treaty that would protect not just Earth, but every species currently under alien domination. Marshal Krixvar's response revealed the depth of his confusion about human motivations. The alien commander demanded to know why Marcus would offer assistance to enemies who had tried to exterminate him. The concept of mercy toward defeated opponents was apparently unknown in hegemony military culture, where victory typically led to complete subjugation or elimination of the losing side. Marcus explained that humans fought not for conquest or domination, but to protect what they cared about from those who threatened it. The hegemony's mistake had been assuming that Earth was populated by typical primitive beings who would surrender when faced with superior technology. Instead, they had encountered a species that became more dangerous as the threats against them escalated. The alien commander struggled to understand how Marcus could transition from deadly combat to offering technological cooperation within minutes of achieving victory. This kind of rapid psychological adaptation was beyond hegemony experience, where military encounters followed predictable patterns that had remained consistent across hundreds of conquered worlds. Marcus began demonstrating the practical applications of his offer by using captured alien technology to construct a medical device capable of healing Xel'Nath's injuries. The combination of human medical knowledge and alien technological capabilities produced results that neither species could have achieved independently, restoring the defeated champion to full functionality within minutes. Destroyer Prime Xel'Nath rose from the ground and examined its restored armor with what appeared to be amazement. The alien warrior had never experienced rapid healing from battle injuries, and the technology Marcus had improvised was superior to anything the hegemony possessed for battlefield medical applications. Marshal Krixvar observed these developments through his sensors while consulting with military advisors aboard the command ship. The alien commander was dealing with a situation completely outside his training and experience. Military doctrine provided no guidance for opponents, who offered technological assistance after achieving total victory in combat. Marcus continued his demonstration by activating several defensive systems around his property that combined human engineering with alien power sources and materials. The hybrid technologies produced capabilities that exceeded anything either species had developed independently, creating force fields and sensor systems that would revolutionize both defensive and offensive military applications. The implications of human-alien technological cooperation became clear as Marcus explained the principles behind his innovations. Humans approached engineering problems with creativity and adaptability that complemented alien precision and technological sophistication. Together, the species could develop capabilities that neither could achieve alone. But Marcus also made clear that this cooperation would only be possible if the hegemony abandoned its policy of conquest and subjugation. Humans would not share their innovations with a military organization dedicated to enslaving other species. The aliens would need to fundamentally change their relationship with the hundreds of worlds they currently controlled through force. Marshal Krixvar found himself facing a choice that no hegemony commander had ever confronted. He could retreat from Earth as originally agreed and report to his superiors that humanity was too dangerous to engage without massive military commitments. Or he could explore the possibility of genuine cooperation with a species that offered technological advantages. In exchange for political concessions, the alien commander's decision was influenced by reports flooding in from hegemony territories throughout the galaxy. Word of the battle between Marcus and Zelnoth had already reached subjugated species who were interpreting human victory as proof that the hegemony could be defeated by determined resistance. Rebellions were erupting on dozens of worlds as oppressed populations demanded their own freedom. Meanwhile, human governments were mobilizing in response to the intelligence Marcus had transmitted about hegemony operations. Military forces around Earth were analyzing captured alien technology and preparing defensive systems based on the innovations Marcus had demonstrated during his battles. Humanity was transforming from an unknown primitive species into a significant military threat within hours of first contact. Marshal Krixvar realized that the situation had evolved beyond simple conquest or withdrawal. The hegemony now faced a choice between extended warfare against an unpredictable enemy or negotiation with a species that offered unprecedented opportunities for technological advancement. The alien commander had never been trained for diplomatic missions, but circumstances were forcing him to consider options beyond military solutions. Marcus sensed the alien commander's uncertainty and pressed his advantage by offering specific examples of human-alien technological cooperation. He described weapon systems that could revolutionize hegemony military capabilities, defensive technologies that would protect alien worlds from external threats, and medical applications that could extend lifespans across multiple species. The offer was tempting enough to overcome Marshal Krixvar's military conditioning, but the alien commander still faced the problem of convincing his superiors to abandon centuries of successful conquest in favor of untested cooperation with a species they had originally intended to eliminate. The hegemony's entire political and economic structure was built around military dominance over subjugated worlds. As negotiations continued, Marcus made one final demonstration of human capabilities that would determine the ultimate outcome of the conflict. He revealed that during the battle with Zelnoth, he had been simultaneously constructing a device capable of transmitting detailed technical information across interstellar distances at faster than light speeds. Human innovations were already spreading to every species the hegemony controlled, providing them with the knowledge they needed to develop their own defensive capabilities. The hegemony could choose cooperation and mutual benefit, or they could face rebellions on hundreds of worlds simultaneously, all equipped with human-inspired technology and tactics. Marshal Krixvar had less than an hour to make a decision that would determine the future of galactic civilization. Marshal Krixvar made his decision as reports continued pouring in from across hegemony space about rebellions erupting on world after world. The alien commander transmitted a formal request for immediate ceasefire negotiations directly to Earth's governments, simultaneously broadcasting orders to all hegemony forces to withdraw from human space and suspend all military operations against rebellion movements until further notice. The announcement sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy, as species that had been oppressed for generations suddenly found themselves facing the possibility of genuine freedom. Hegemony military commanders struggled to understand how a single human on one primitive world had managed to destabilize an empire that had dominated hundreds of star systems for centuries. Marcus watched the alien command ship begin moving away from Earth, its massive bulk slowly accelerating toward the edge of the solar system. But instead of departing immediately, Marshal Krixvar requested permission to establish a permanent diplomatic station in orbit around Earth. The alien commander wanted to personally oversee the unprecedented negotiations between humanity and the hegemony. Over the following months, Marcus found himself at the center of diplomatic discussions that would reshape galactic civilization. His farm became an unlikely meeting place where human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to develop technologies that neither species could have imagined independently. The combination of human creativity and alien precision produced innovations that revolutionized everything from medical treatment to space travel. Destroyer Prime. Xelnoth surprised everyone by requesting permission to remain on Earth as a cultural exchange representative. The alien warrior had been profoundly affected by its defeat and subsequent healing, experiencing concepts of mercy and cooperation that had been completely absent from its previous existence. Xelnoth wanted to understand the human perspective that made such radical changes in behavior possible. The former alien champion became an unexpected ally in Marcus's efforts to establish peaceful relationships between species that had been enemies for generations. Xelnoth's reputation throughout hegemony space lent credibility to human proposals for cooperation, while its first-hand experience of human technological capabilities convinced skeptical alien military leaders that partnership was more beneficial than continued warfare. Marcus also discovered that his actions had inspired similar resistance movements throughout human space. Other defense contractors and military engineers were emerging from retirement to share their innovations with Earth's rapidly expanding space defense programs. The planet that the hegemony had considered a minor threat was becoming the technological hub for an alliance of previously subjugated species. Sarah would have been amazed to see how their small farm had become a center for interstellar diplomacy and technological development. Marcus kept her photograph on his workshop wall, where it watched over meetings between alien ambassadors and human scientists working together to solve problems that had seemed impossible just months before. The hegemony's transformation proved more difficult than Marcus had anticipated. Centuries of military dominance had created institutional resistance to cooperative relationships, and many alien commanders struggled to adapt to situations where force was not the primary solution to political problems. Several hegemony factions attempted to resume conquest operations, only to discover that human-inspired defensive technologies had made subjugation economically impractical. Marcus found himself serving as an unofficial mediator between species that had been enemies for generations, using his unique position as the human who had defeated the hegemony's greatest warrior to bridge cultural differences that seemed insurmountable. His engineering background helped him translate between different technological approaches, while his personal experience with loss and recovery provided insights into the psychological aspects of transitioning from warfare to cooperation. The most significant breakthrough came when Marcus proposed the creation of joint exploration missions that would combine human adaptability with alien technology to investigate unknown regions of the galaxy. These expeditions discovered resources and opportunities that made cooperation far more profitable than conquest, providing economic incentives for peace that complemented the military deterrent effects of human-inspired defensive capabilities. As the first anniversary of his battle with the alien assassins approached, Marcus stood in his rebuilt workshop surrounded by technologies that combined the best innovations of dozens of species. The communication array that had once broadcast defiance to alien attackers now coordinated peaceful exchanges between worlds that had never imagined working together. Marshal Krixvar had become a regular visitor to Earth, working with human diplomats to establish frameworks for interstellar cooperation that would prevent future conflicts. The alien commander often expressed amazement at how quickly humans could transition between seemingly incompatible perspectives, adapting to new situations with a flexibility that alien psychology found difficult to comprehend. But perhaps the most remarkable change was in Marcus himself. The man who had been prepared to die defending his small farm against alien assassins had become a bridge between species, using the same stubborn determination that had driven his resistance to build relationships that would ensure lasting peace. His workshop, once dedicated to instruments of war, now produced technologies that healed, protected, and connected worlds across vast distances. Marcus often reflected on how Sarah's memory had sustained him through the darkest moments of his conflict with the hegemony. Her belief in his ability to solve impossible problems had proved prophetic, though she could never have imagined that his solutions would involve reshaping galactic civilization. The love they had shared continued to influence his decisions, pushing him toward choices that protected and nurtured rather than simply destroyed. The galaxy was still adapting to the new reality of human participation in interstellar affairs, but the foundation for lasting peace had been established. Species that had been enemies for centuries were learning to work together, while the hegemony was slowly transforming from a military empire into a cooperative alliance. And at the center of it all was a widowed engineer who had proved that human determination, combined with the stubborn refusal to surrender, could overcome any obstacle the universe placed in its path. Marcus Chen had sent 10 alien assassins back in coffins, but more importantly, he had sent a message that resonated throughout the galaxy. Humans would defend what they cared about with every resource at their disposal, but they would also extend their hand in friendship to any species willing to abandon conquest in favor of cooperation. The choice, as always, belonged to those who approached humanity's small blue world with either aggressive intentions or peaceful hopes.